So the family asset tweets or whatever that I made did eventually lead me into trouble, and I was speaking about my family, the Kavambas, tissues, checkeros, and all of those. Uh, so yeah, I'm in a lot of trouble over that. But I want to speak on something that I haven't really spoken about. Uh, Mainly due to media exaggeration about it. My lady took this very seriously. She advocated for this a lot, and I guess my sign of not supporting her while she was doing it was bad. I did not participate. But now I will put in word as to what I think is going on. Now, this is about Israel. I have noticed that when people speak of Israel, they usually speak of Jews. And I don't want to speak of Israel in the context of Jews and the attachment that comes with them, which is the Holocaust, the Nazi, and all of World War II basically, and how they attained their land. Now, the state of Israel was and became a formation of an empire because they decided to form allies. They got allies, strong allies who could defend them and who could arm them. Basically, that's what they did, and that's what the Palestinians lack. The Palestine narrative is a narrative that is based on entitlement, based on history, and it is a history that is unclear. Right, the people that instigate Israel are a few, but the level to which they instigate Israel leads to a lot of civilians casualties, and they know this. They want to use civilian casualty to paint Israel as an evil state. Now, every country has bigots, every country has racists, and no other state has bigots and racists that are put to the front more than Israel. I am not defending Israel in any way whatsoever. They are harming a lot of people, especially children, civilians, but the people that need to be neutralized are people that actually have to be identified, which are the guerrillas that are instigating Israel. They are the ones that disrupt peace treaties between Israel and Palestine. And the funding of the weapons that they have, albeit their primitive weapons that they use, is a channel that has to be discovered and has to be cut, because we have to save not only Israel but the entire area. It is an isolated incident, and Israel has isolated it. They have made it sort of what you could call sophisticated warfare. Right? Not going to go into the biblical narrative which some use, that Israel has a right to land because they are Jews. Not all Israelites are Jewish, and not all Palestinians are religiously tied to their religious, I guess, obligation. So it means the situation in Israel means that the media especially has demonized the wrong people. As opposed to villainizing Israel, they should have villainized and exposed those small collectives that are causing and instigating warfare against Israel. Because if they are neutralized and if they are stopped, they are like the Boko Haram of Palestine. That's what people don't get. They not only try to harm Israel, but they also harm Palestinians. A lot of casualties are actually caused by those characters, a lot, and they have to be exposed, neutralized, and absolutely made irrelevant in order for Israel to start having real peaceful treaties with Palestine. Because right now Israel is isolating the warfare and spreading their territory, and they are using the instigation of these Palestinians as a way for them to gain land. That is why Israel started out small, tiny, but now we see they have grown. But there is another thing. The Palestine or the Palestinians never intended to grow out of their existing vicinity. So we need to remove myth and conspiracy from the equation and start looking at the realities that are happening. It is the Israel children that need the world. It is children that are suffering from war, children that aren't going to school because of this war, children that are losing family members because of this war. And it is a war that is instigated by a few, and they need to face the punishment of the rule of law in terms of violating war crimes, as well as Israel, because some Israelis have decided in their efforts to isolate their warfare to use biochemical weapons, and America has been mum on this due to them looking at it in the context of Israel being a Jewish state. This is why America is mum on the situation, and America is one of the only countries in the world, apart from Britain, who can actually intervene. And their intervention wouldn't be to choose sides between Palestine or Israel, which is what most people want. Most people want to choose sides, and it seems like they are choosing the side of the Israelites, which isn't really the case if you look at it deeply. America does benefit from Israel because of the channel that they have, which is sort of like a pathway for their trade. so they don't want to disrupt that. We must not forget that America is, after all, a country, right? They are not the world, they are a country. um, but they are the only ones that can intervene, and their intervention should be based on neutralizing and as well as identifying those instigators of warfare from the Palestinian side, because what we have is a retribution and indoctrination that is being perpetuated also by media. The coverage that media gives is biased and in turn creates a sense of retribution. They are killing us, so we need to fight back, which leads to a lot of people going into warfare whereas they should be at the negotiating table as opposed to the bullet. There has to be a referendum made, and Israel for once needs to face sanctions in order for them to have a referendum, so that we can finally find out what Israelites, the citizens, think of the situation that they have between Palestine. Because what the citizens think, or the views of the citizens, has not really been revealed. There is a lot of they are just enjoying and going on with their life narrative that is put out to show them as uncaring. But this happens in all countries that are not really at war. If you're in a peaceful, secure country, you're going to go about your life. Not everybody is born a humanitarian, and not everybody is going to be a humanitarian. But the referendum to figure out what they think about the Palestinian situation would do great justice to find out whether they should join or not join states. It should be a decision by the people, and this form of referendums would be instilling democracy and the rule of law into the Israeli situation, which isn't something that has happened. The rule of law has not been enforced, and it's about time that it's enforced. I was very disappointed President Obama in the manner in which he addressed the very serious Israeli problem. I know his heart is obviously in the right place, and he wants America to be great. He's America's president, not Israel's president, and he can't just intervene. But the power play that the Obama administration, and I say administration because it's not a one-man show, and I know this, the power that they have and the power that Israel has should be practiced for once, and not just in the form of violent acts. Because the way forward for all of us is our future is a future of collaboration. That is our way forward. And if we don't address these issues, when will we address them? Alright, so we need to address these issues. And I hope and pray that my voice is heard on this, and that they reconsider their approach and methods that they use in the Israel and Palestine situation. and that's my say on that.